Will Ripple be forced to sell over 20 billion XRP if the Clarity Act is passed in its current form? I wanted to discuss this at length today, give you every single detail you need to understand about what Ripple's paths will be if in fact this bill gets approved as it stands today. I want to give you some additional context, my feelings, everything is going to go into this, as well as a full breakdown of how much XRP Ripple actually controls and where it is. Let's just get into it. The Crypto Basic put this out. Will Ripple sell or burn 17 billion XRP in escrow as the Clarity Act imposes a 20% holding limit? It says lawmakers in the US Senate continue to work through the Clarity Act, but one section of the bill could force Ripple to cut down its large XRP escrow holdings. As the bill moves forward, the XRP community has continued to speculate how Ripple plans to respond if regulators require the company to hold less than 20% of XRP asset to qualify as a commodity. Notably, community member MacAttack recently presented several key possibilities. For context, the Digital Assets Market Clarity Act of 2025, which is known as the Clarity Act, highlights specific conditions that define a mature blockchain system. One of these requirements focuses on ownership. Specifically, a blockchain system must show broad distribution to ensure that no single person, group, or related entities under common control own 20% or more of the token supply or hold equivalent governance power. Lawmakers designed this rule to confirm decentralization, reduce centralized influence, and determine when a digital asset should shift from SEC rules to CFTC oversight. If any single party under common control holds 20% or more, the system fails the maturity test and remains under securities regulations with added disclosure and anti-manipulation obligations. That holder would also qualify as a blockchain control person, which brings additional restrictions. MacAttack pointed out that Ripple currently holds more than 34.4 billion in XRP escrow, a number far above the 20% threshold. For perspective, with XRP's total supply sitting at 99.9 billion, Ripple's 34.4 billion balance represents 34% of this total supply. Also, Ripple does hold several billion XRP for on-demand liquidity. Some of that XRP Ripple has bought back off the open market when prices were still dramatically lower. According to MacAttack, this raises a direct question. Would Ripple need to divest, move, or remove more than 14 billion XRP to comply once this bill becomes law? The pundit, noted that speculation about the path has grown quickly. Notably, some believe Ripple might sell the excess XRP to large institutions such as hedge funds or financial firms that want long-term exposure or liquidity, or ETF providers. However, others think Ripple may eventually reveal that parts of the escrow already sit under the control of outside parties, meaning Ripple only manages the accounts rather than owns them. Under this idea, the company would have sold future escrow rights instead of releasing tokens directly into the market. Interestingly, Ripple CTO David Schwartz confirmed that this was a possibility while responding to community inquiries, and I actually have that here, right? Ripple could sell the right to receive the tokens released from escrow, or even sell the accounts that the escrows complete into, but the XRP still can't circulate until their release date. Another theory suggests that Ripple might destroy a portion of the supply to tighten circulation, although this remains highly unlikely. Schwartz has also commented against this idea, suggesting that it would be a waste of the funds. Meanwhile, MacAttack pointed out that more gradual option would involve slow, steady sales over many years, similar to the monthly escrow system that Ripple already uses, where it releases 1 billion XRP and returns most of it afterward. The community also witnessed some wild claims. For instance, some individuals suggest that Ripple has already assigned the roughly 1,700 NDA contracts created since 2017 to major institutions, governments, or international bodies such as the IMF. Now, this is not 1,700 NDAs. This is 1,700 contracts that involve some NDAs. I don't know why people still get this wrong. When the court documents and everything was released, we saw that some of these contracts represent Ripple paying employees a certain amount of XRP and Ripple having rights to some other things. And so It's not all NDAs. I just want to make that totally clear to everybody watching. According to this belief, Ripple only acts as the administrator. Once the Clarity Act becomes law, those arrangements could surface and instantly spread XRP ownership throughout the large market movers. Per MacAttack, another rumor claims that global financial organizations or leading governments may plan to use XRP for digital versions of a special drawing rights, an ESDR, which also gives the asset role in international finance. Now, in order for this to happen, a country would need to use XRP as its currency, or the laws or rules around special drawing rights would need to be updated to include something like XRP if that's not going to happen, where a country uses XRP as its currency. A different version suggests Ripple might transfer part of its holdings to the US government or Federal Crypto Reserve under the next administration, which some believe could trigger a surge in market interest. Others argue that Ripple could restructure the entire escrow system, stop the monthly releases, and place control in the hands of independent entities, which would speed up decentralization and make XRP more appealing to institutional products like ETFs. Responding, community commenter Brad Kimes of Digital Perspectives added that Ripple may have already used option contracts pre-allocate large amounts of XRP to major players, similar to the early deals with R3 and Great Kid. Meanwhile, market analyst Igrag Crypto pointed to Evernorth as a new XRP treasury company backed by Ripple as another potential avenue for reducing Ripple's direct holdings. However, these claims remain highly speculative until Ripple confirms its plan for the escrow balance. Notably, the Clarity Act passed the U.S. House earlier this year and has strong bipartisan support. The Senate received the bill in September and sent it to the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, where it remains while lawmakers discuss competing proposals such as the Responsible Financial Innovation Act, which is another bill that started in the Senate. So what would be Ripple's workarounds? I wanted to look at this as well. The bill defines digital commodity affiliated person broadly to include anyone that acquires 5% or more of a token in the issuer, founders or senior employers, major owners, or entities under common ownership or control. It also looks at whether a person or group or persons under common control has unilateral authority directly or indirectly through any contract or arrangement to control the asset or the system. Under that structure, a new company that is owned, funded, and directed by Ripple or its founders or executives would almost certainly be affiliated person under the common control, meaning that XRP would still be counted towards Ripple's 20%. Now, you have Chris Larson, Brad Garlinghouse, Arthur Britto, all of these people that are still involved with Ripple that control a certain amount of XRP. Now, they would be grouped in to this 20%. You see where this kind of could be bad. It could be bad and it could be good depending on how you're looking at it. I think Ripple having this much control of XRP actually is helpful to the markets. Other people would disagree. You let me know down in the comments if you think this is a good or bad thing. What Ripple could actually do here is any approach must be genuinely reduce Ripple's beneficial ownership or control, not just move XRP but between related entities. Tools that might work in principle, selling XRP into the market or truly independent third parties that are not under common control and otherwise affiliated. Structuring irrevocable trusts or foundations with independent governance where Ripple or its insiders do not control the trustees or cannot reclaim their direct XRP. Burning it obviously is probably not a good option. Now, let's take a look at how much XRP we're really talking about. Roughly anywhere from 39 to 42 billion XRP is currently what Ripple and its team control. Escrowed XRP, we got that as about 34.4 billion. Ripple's non-escrow holdings, its liquid treasury plus its activity rotates for ODL and institutional flows are in the mid-single digit of billions. On-chain tracking and Ripple's past quarterly disclosures suggest that the pool is roughly 4 to 5 billion. So that's how much XRP Ripple has for on-demand liquidity. Putting this all together, we're roughly 39 to 42 billion. I just wanted to make sure that you had those numbers directly. Now, we understood that David Schwartz has said that Ripple can, in fact, sell some of this XRP pre-escrow, so like in the escrow or the wallets that will be released. I did want to look at some of the data here on how much XRP has been released and how much XRP is re-locked up into escrow. So I pulled all the information from 24 and 25 to show you guys that information. So here it is. Starting in January 24, this is a billion XRP 1,000 millions is a billion. And so as you can see that once a billion XRP was unlocked here, they relocked 800 million, basically 80%. So 200 million was to the, this basically kind of shows you where the XRP went. And so going through the whole year of 2024, you can see that only 1 month here in November and here in December, this was 530 million XRP was relocked, 470 million XRP was sent out. And then December, you had about 700 to 800 million XRP was relocked, 200 to 300 million XRP was sent out to its partners. Now, looking at 2025, where do we stand? January, look, we've got a 1 billion and 700 million relocked up, and that goes down through all of the months except June, where 670 million XRP was relocked up. And then, of course, where we are today, even in December, 700 million XRP was locked up. Now, this does make me bullish because this shows that Ripple isn't giving away more XRP in this moment to ETF providers. I will be tracking January, February, and March of next year to see if these numbers change. I would imagine Ripple will, looking at the pattern here, 800 million to 700 million, I would imagine in 2026, it'll go to 600 million, which they will lock up 600 million, and 400 million will go out to partners or people that have, or institutions that have already pre-bought some of this XRP. Now, some of this information now of Ripple's XRP holdings could be tied into their IPO value in the future. Now, Brad Garlinghouse said that Ripple doesn't have plans to IPO right now. It's not a major consideration or concern, maybe is the wrong word to use there. The reason is when a company IPOs, they usually are looking for money. Ripple doesn't need money at this point. They have more than enough to do everything that they want to do. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Clarity Act and if this will change Ripple's IPO value. Obviously, right now it's at about $40 billion where they just raised 500 million from Citadel and other partners. I will be keeping close tabs on this as well. Now, today we did get markets moving positively to a 25-point rate cut from the Fed. We do have 21 shares XRP spot ETF launching here in the next few days. And now you're going to get a market structure bill, hopefully in the early stages of 2026. We're all waiting to see if and when the NASDAQ, the stock market, starts to settle using cryptocurrency, if they are going to be going through R3, which is their partner in Project Ion. R3 has two possibilities, XDC or XRP. XDC has about 1 billion in total market cap. XRP is now sitting at about 130 to 140 billion dollar market cap, and this can dramatically change to next year. You're going to go with the asset that has more liquidity and is more regulated. I don't see them using XDC as the settlement asset here for the stock market. Obviously, XDC doesn't have the regulatory clarity that XRP currently has here in the United States. So one does speculate, are they going to be using XRP for the settlement of the stock market? There are a lot of people in the XRP space that say that's exactly what's about to happen. You mix the ETF demand, the new index funds coming in, buying up XRP, and other companies setting up their own strategies for crypto. This leads to a lot more buying of XRP with an already depleted supply. One starts to wonder, when will the price start to reflect the institutional demand that we are seeing right now? And what is the price going to be for XRP in 2026? Let me know down in the comments when we get to December 31st, 2026, what is going to be XRP's price? Will it be, just a few dollars? Will it be hundreds? Will it be thousands? I want to hear directly from you, the audience, where you think this is going. It is an honor to spend this time with you to educate you on the asset that I love to death. Thank you, XRP Army. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. Thank you. All right. I'll see you next time. I hope you got value.